Hello and welcome to the Fire Officer Project podcast, a show where we will discuss and learn together about topics specific to the American Fire Service. Come along as we explore areas such as firehouse traditions and culture, the fire family life, leadership, as well as getting yourself ready to be the company officer. This show is for everyone from the rookie firefighter to newly promoted officers. I'm your host, Mark McCurdy. Now let's get on with the show. Hello, welcome back to the Fire Officer Project podcast. This is episode 13. And goodness, I should welcome myself back, basically, because, depending on when you start these things, it seems like it's in sequence, but it's been over a year now that I've started this, and I'm just at episode 13. I've taken a 2.5 month break. I had a couple months break in between that. Back in July, if you've been following my Instagram or just listening to some of the podcasts, back in July, my mom passed away, so that's just really been hammering me, and you don't realize, you think that, it's going to happen one day, and you think, I can handle it, but geez, it's been rough, but, getting through it, and she wouldn't want me to sit there and dwell on things and, be in the doldrums all the time, so I'm getting back at it, and you realize you just got to lean on people, talk to them about it, and of course, time, right? I've talked about other things in other episodes where time is the healer, or you just need time to get yourself where you need to be, and that's what I needed to do. So now I'm starting to feel like I can kind of function a little bit better, which is good, and get back on this, because trying to fit this stuff in, work, family life, and be present, which is huge, it's a big deal. So finally getting back into it. Thank you for all the support that you've given me. Really, in the last couple months, it's really starting to take off. The numbers of the podcast downloads, followers, likes on things, and the way Instagram works, it's kind of funky. I don't completely understand it. I don't know if anybody does with the whole algorithm thing, but really in the past few weeks, it's shot up. So thank you, because that has to come from people sharing it and spreading the word. So thank you. Getting these things out there, and I have all these topics. You're just trying to fit everything in when you can. So enough to do about that. What's going on new now? I have this episode we're going to talk about called Firehouse Reputations. And I think I have some pretty good points here to bring up. I'm not going to be able to cover everything. And there's probably things that you're like, I wish you would expand on that. Or you didn't talk about this, which is all good stuff. So when these things come out, I realize after I push stop on the record button, do my little bit editing, I'm like, I wish I would have said this. But I'm not going to try to make this thing so perfect that I go back and piece things in, because that doesn't work right. But what does work is when I actually have conversations with people. And I've been having quite a few conversations, either by Instagram, texting, messaging, physically on the phone with people, FaceTiming. It's been great meeting new people and discussing things and realizing that it's all pretty common. The only thing that's really different is the patch that you're wearing or the badge that you're wearing. It says something different than what our other firefighters are going through as well. But it's so funny to hear about pretty much the same thing, no matter the size of the department. So, which makes it easier, because I try not to just talk about my department or ones that I've been exposed to. But it's pretty motivating when you hear people saying, hey, you're doing a good job, but do this or add this. I love all that stuff. So please keep that coming. However you want to send it, an email, the website, responses on Instagram, that stuff's all good, because it really helps me to focus where I need to go, hear some opinions from other people, which is great. So enough about that. Some new stuff I'll just cover real quick, and then I'll hit this topic. Bought a bunch of new equipment. I put a few pictures up that said I bought a few things. Microphones, cables, a whole recording setup, which is good. Did some work to the house, my little area that I do to hopefully make the sound better and kind of just make things a little bit better, kind of take it up to the next level. The biggest thing will be the ability to start making phone calls or recording interviews. That's going to be the big thing. I know I've talked about it for months, but I've already talked about the hurdles I've had, a few topics still I want to cover on my own, and then go back and revisit those by talking to people and doing interviews, which is great. I already have a huge list of people I want to interview, and hopefully can capture these people and they're willing to jump on here with me. Bunch of questions, and then I'll throw things out to you guys soon about what questions would you like to hear about when I start interviewing people. So that'll be cool. Or even if you're interested in talking about things, just hit me up and send me a message on there. But all that stuff came from, some of my own out of my pocket, but people donating money through Buy Me a Coffee. That's on the podcast at the bottom of each episode. You can click on there and donate money, which is great. I appreciate it very, very much. Same thing through the website. I've given hands-on classes or live classes, and I don't charge anybody, but sometimes people feel like they'd like to give me something. So gift cards, and I kind of stacked them all up and spent a bunch of money on this stuff. So that's been great. I appreciate all the people that have donated, given gift cards and things like that. It's not required. I'm not looking to make money on this. I still have another 7 or 8 years before I'm going to retire. I'm trying to figure out what I want to do after retirement. And I don't know that something like this would be something I'd always want to do, but I don't know. I kind of like it. So anyways, but I appreciate all the stuff that people have given to me and all the advice and interaction and money donations and everything. It's been awesome. So I'm just going to keep building it up. Pretty crazy to think that over a year ago, you just push record with a microphone into a GarageBand program and you can do some things to it. And it's really trial and error. And then you throw it out there and you put yourself out there and you get some crap back from people because, I don't know, maybe they're just pissed at the world or maybe they don't like what I have to say, which is totally good. I can take the constructive criticism. But the overwhelming majority is all positive. So thank you for that because it helps motivate me. You've actually helped me over the past few months get through this stress and just completely off balance. Not just because you're talking about fire stuff, because that's not going to replace anything that has to do with me growing up or my mom or anything that, but it just helps to see that there's actually people out there that are going through the same thing or have gone, or just send a quick message to boost your morale up a little bit. It's all awesome stuff. So thank you very much. All right, so episode 13, Firehouse Reputations. And you're kind of like, well, that's kind of a weird subject, but the reason I bring it up, and I've gotten this from a lot of people, we have a lot of new people or younger people, say even younger, 5 years or less. Hell, even, it just depends on where you come from, kind of your background and understanding the fire service. Now, I'm not saying I have it all together, but I'm 47 now. And I started out around the fire service when I was 15 and a half, 16. So have I pigeonholed myself? Kind of, but so what? That's what I want to do. I love this job, but there's times where I want to freaking walk away and go, I'm done, just based on a number of things that have happened with staffing. And, you see these Instagram accounts where everybody seems to be hurting with staffing. So that part I can realize is common. But, frustration levels at home and stress and everything can compound with the job. And then depending on where you work, things that you see, been exposed to, all that stuff adds up. I don't really want to go down the mental health route now. Sometime in the future, I'm going to touch on it because it's a big deal. But this one is more about reputation. So let's talk about kind of some fun stuff. So this came about, the topic came about even before I started doing this podcast, and a firefighter at one of my older stations asked, how you came from this blank station. Fortunately, I've worked at a few stations in my department that already had this big reputation, ones that you had to be asked to bid to that station. Now, some people go, that's BS because you should be able to put in wherever you want to go. Yeah, well, try that. See how that works for you. And I'm going to explain why that's a good thing in the long run to have those reputations and what it does. But I've been fortunate enough to be asked, or I've asked, or put myself in a position to be asked, however you want to look at it, to work in these higher visible type stations. Not all, but a good amount of them. And I strategically tried to place myself that way, and it didn't always work out. There was plenty of places I wanted to go to that I was told, hey, get in line, or we have a plan already with these people, and maybe next time, maybe next time. I get it. You can't get butthurt over that. There is a plan. And in a bigger department, there's a plan because they're working around people, right? We all like to work around people, usually, that you've been around or been exposed to. You kind of know their background. If you had somebody cold call you and say, I'd like to bid your station, already your defenses are up. Nowadays, it's pretty easy to find information out about people by texting or finding this guy who knows this person who knows this. But then how do you know you're getting a fair deal of what that person really is like? So you got to take a grain of salt with everything. So the question was, how do you make the station blank, maybe the one you're at, like station X over there, who has this tremendous reputation, a line out the door of people that want to go and bid there in all ranks, or the one, because I know you guys have been around these ones, the one where you promote out and come right back. Promote out, come back. You know, those type of stations, they exist because those are the good places that people want to go to. Whether they're doing it for a reputation, like solid place that you're just going to learn a ton of experience from, or they're afraid to get out of their comfort zone. It's one or the other, usually. And sometimes you don't have control, right? So you get put in a spot, you promote, and you just get thrown out somewhere where you've never worked, you don't know anybody, or you just, it's all new to you. And that, I try to recommend to people, especially when you promote, is a good thing. Coming back to an area that people already know you when you just promote it can be tough. And I think I've touched on that on other episodes, but I may have to highlight it again when I come back around to it. But then at the same time, you can do that without promoting, right? You're going to go to an area like, I want to go learn this part of our department. I know nobody over there. I talked to so-and-so who said, yeah, come and bid. And it's a steep learning curve. You're throwing yourself out there to the wolves to just try to get better. There's a lot of that. And nobody likes to get out of their comfort zone. But believe me, when you start to teach yourself that it's okay to do that, and you operate in kind of throwing yourself out there, you learn to get used to it. Just like when you promote, say to the company officer level, like I've talked about, and I say it all the time. I'm sure I've said it in here, and you may not have captured it in one of the, if you haven't listened to all these episodes, but I always tell people, prepare to be uncomfortable, because that's what it's going to be like. So without getting too far off the rails, when it comes to that reputation. So the question was, how do you make this station, our current station, like X station over there, who has this reputation and all this craziness, and whether it's made up in their head and they think it's something more than it is, or it legit is, how do you make that happen? Well, I kind of wrote it down here, so let me reference things as I go down, and I have to bullet point everything because it's so much information that I'll just be off the rails, and you'll be like, this episode doesn't even match the title because you're all over the place. So let me reference what I'm looking at here. So I got the question, okay. And then, so what is it about certain stations? I asked that person, I reversed the question. Instead of me giving them a straight up answer, which was a good one because I had to think about it for a second. I go, yeah, what is it that those stations have? Or firehouses, whatever you want to call it. What is it that they do that you think we don't have? So I asked the question, like, okay, what do they have? What is it that you think they have that we don't? And I kind of got the same pause from the person asking the question back to me, like, yeah, what is it? So we kind of hemmed and hawed, talked about it, went back and forth, which is great stuff. I wrote it all down, and now we're talking about it here. So I asked, what do those stations do differently? Well, how about just starting from the basic foundation? I bet you they hold some kind of reputation or a standard. A reputation can be good or bad, but they have a reputation, good or bad, based on what they set as their standard or expectation for that firehouse. So take it and place yourself where you're at. Or maybe you're not on the job yet. I'm trying to diversify the crowd that I'm reaching here. But for the most part, this thing's set up for people already on the job. And ones, especially ones that are going to start to promote. But you can also listen to this and, it's for the future. So what do they do differently? Okay, I guarantee those big ones, the heavy hitter stations that you have, whether you're a 3-station, 2-station, 200-station department, you know the ones that have the reputations and the ones that are just the average, the ones that are subpar. You know all those things already. But I think these are some of the things that they do that keeps those high standard expectation reputations up in a positive way. It's easy for me to talk about the negative ones. You already know those people are bumps if they're doing certain things. So let's talk about the positive ones. Okay, what do? Can they or do they control who bids into that station? Probably, is what I'm saying. I can use our station as an example, or the station, our department as an example. You can bid every year on the year and go to where there's a vacancy spot. You can't put in paperwork and bump somebody out of their spot in our department. There are unique things to that you could, but it has to do with something more so people that are on probation and then a temporary. It's a whole process. It's not worth explaining on here. But for the most part, you can bid every year on the year to wherever you want that's open based on seniority. That's the meat and potatoes of it. We have a tradition / whatever you want to call it, where if you're looking to bid somewhere, you usually call and confirm to see if they have a plan, because maybe your seniority number will beat somebody out that they kind of want to come to that station. And they can't, they don't know who's going to put in the paperwork. So since we can't physically see it, it's all kind of a secret at our agency, which is kind of weird. I've heard other departments where they can physically look on a computer program and see who has what spots covered. I don't know if we should get there one day, but our current agency doesn't do that. It's kind of like a secret. I just happen to work at the one fire station in our department that handles the bids and transfers. So I have a little more of an insight of how the department works that way. Doesn't mean I get any extra bonus ability to look at things, but at least I can understand it a little bit more. So do I think that they can control that? Do they expect that? Yes. I was asked to go to a station once where it had this high expectation reputation thing, and it was only a few days before bids closing. I had no idea that I would be going into that, and I had a phone call 2 nights before and asked if I wanted to come bid it. I said, you bet, because that's one that, to say it wasn't on my radar I wasn't even thinking I would ever make it to this station that I went to as a paramedic or firefighter medic. And I was fortunate enough. I said, okay, yes, for sure. I'll put in my paperwork tomorrow. What day do I need to come down in these next couple of days to interview with the captain and see how they're like, oh, no, you're good based on reputation from other people, but make sure you put in the paperwork. So that's huge, right? So they can control who they call and when they're looking for somebody, or there's a line out the door and they just go down the list and try to find who's available then to fit that. So do they control that? Yes. I've had that phone call multiple times because it just happens. I've worked at stations most of my career, bigger houses, ones that have those type of reputations that people bid to, at least back in the day. Now it's amazing to me to see these spots that are open on our transfer openings that were places that never came available because there was a line out the door. And now I'm starting to see these great places to work at that never came open on the transfer opening sheet because there was always somebody had it covered. Now they're coming open. It's crazy. Now I can't blame it on new generation or whatever we want to say. It's not that. It has a factor. It's partially that, but it has a factor to do with how fast we're promoting too. And paramedic, it has a factor to do with a lot, but a decent percentage of it is people don't want to bid to these certain spots because it's known for these hardcore, busy, high expectation stations, which honestly, that is a portion of new generation stuff. So I'm just going to say the way it is. That's the way it is. So I don't know. I can't control all that, but I guarantee these places. I've had people call and say, I'd like to bid your spot. And I have to tell them, I already have a plan. I want this person to come here because of this reason, or I already have a plan. That should be enough, right? To where you tell somebody, we have a plan, which is a nice way of saying, don't bid there. And then people will still be, I can put in my paperwork? Okay, let me tell you this way. No. You can do whatever you want, but I prefer that you don't, because I have this. Now, have I straight up gone and told somebody not to do something like that? Well, I'm not going to incriminate myself here. I just tell people I have a plan. So maybe you should honor that plan, because once you get the spot, you know what I mean? You kind of control who comes in there for a reason. How about the people that work there, or the people at your current station? Let's say not those fancy stations. Let's just say your station. What if you were to just hold everybody to a certain standard in all ranks? Firefighters held each other accountable. The engineers, the captains held each other to a standard that you all had to meet. That's a big thing. Now, how do you do that? How do you control that? Because you're going to get turds. A bit of spot based on where it is that you're at. And is it possible at every station? No, it's not possible to make it like that. But I'm going to go down this list, and I got some other things that you can start to interject to try to make these things work. Basically, you can't go in one way. What do? We go in another way. We don't try to only try one way and go, I'm done. It won't ever work. This person sucks, and they'll never be that. Okay, fine. Well, what if you started getting a 2/3 of that station on your side? Could you squeeze out the other third eventually? Maybe. Now, granted, there's, we tried it at this station. There's all these stories. I know there is. But let's look at some things that you can do in a positive way. If you want to be a straight dick and tell people bid out, do it. I've done it before. And say, hey, I think it's time to go. Or we have this super secret way where we put bid sheets, happen to be laying on the person's desk, on their bed. Maybe another message when they're not getting, when you've straight up told them, time to go. Now, once again, can you incriminate yourself? Sure. Have I ever done that? I don't know. That's something you can ask me on the side. But that's stuff when you're trying to squeeze out a bump. Let's take something that's neutral playing field and you're just trying to bring up the expectation. Okay, so everybody holds everybody accountable to a standard, a high standard, not just a freaking minimal standard, like a high standard. Enough to where it's noticeable when people work overtime at your station, like, what the hell? This place is a notch up, 1 degree change different than places I've worked at above the standard. That little bit starts to, how do you get to that? Okay, let's talk about that. How about something as fun or as simple as station pride? Now, is it easy when, like right now, okay, we're going through contract negotiations, the county's doesn't, there's a stalemate right now. People are pissed, and you got some of these people that are running their mouth on social media or whatever, just like you got to let the process work itself out, but they're pissed because we're not getting it right. Okay, that kills station pride. It kills like a time where you're like, this isn't the time to interject this stuff. Well, true. But when it's something big like that, who suffers? You day to day? Do you think that other stations, the big agency, really gives a crap about all the daily stuff all the time? Yes, I would say deep down they do, but it's also out of their control. So you have to control the area that you live in as much as you can. If your excuse is going to be, well, I'm pissed because we didn't get a raise, or our rig's a piece of crap, or whatever it may be, okay, to fix that won't happen overnight. But you got to sit there and go to that place every day. So are you going to make it better at your level, or are you just going to be pissed? So what can you do? Station pride, patches, challenge coins, making the rig look dialed in, keeping the station clean, all those cool things. Now, patches, challenge coins, all the things right after 9/11, that really ramped up. And then it kind of died off for a while. Now I'm starting to see it kind of come back a little bit. But then people get pissed because what happens? They build this cool patch, and then somebody poo-poos it and says, oh, you can't have that because it looks too much like this, or it doesn't represent these people, or whatever it may be. You're going to have those bumps. That's the day we live in, the time that we live in now. So don't let that discourage you. Change what you need to change. Come up with a different plan. Make it work. But still stick to your guns and make some pride in your station. And push as much as you can to get it approved within parameters that you can work in. Same thing with the challenge coins. Making the rig look clean all the time. Equipment. Keeping the station as clean as possible. Yeah, I get it. It's hard to do when you're unmotivated and you're pissed. But remember the time before you got on the job where you said you would do anything it took to get on the job? Yeah, I remember that too. And there's plenty of times where I'm like, man, I do not feel like doing this or that. I'm human too. I'm not this holier than thou, look at me, because I just want to talk about this stuff all the time person. I get that same way too. Like, this sucks. I don't like doing fire prevention. It freaking sucks. I don't want to do it, but it has to be done. It's part of our job. It's not going away. So I can sit on it and be pissed and wait till the last minute and tell the guys, guess what? We have 4 days of just nonstop 8 to 5 doing fire prevention, or we can do a little bit each day. A little bit each day. Incorporate some training with it. Walking through buildings, get some done, move on. It's not going to go away. So I get it too. I'm the same way. I don't love everything about the fire service, but I don't want to get off on a tangent. Okay. How about events together? Like, how many people still actually go and do things with their firehouse brethren, sisters off duty? Like, some places are really good at it. And some places you're like, I don't want to hang out with these people off duty anyway. So the hell? Don't ask me to do that. But when you can, and when it's like, hey, because we talked about it the other day, we did inspections. We're like, hey, we found this cool breakfast place in our first in district. Man, we should come here. They open at 7. Okay, we get off at 7, 7:30. Everybody gets their relief. Throw it out there one day every once in a while, once a month. Hey, anybody got anything going on? Let's go to breakfast together. Well, you're like, God damn, I just spent 24 hours with these people. Why do I want to spend another couple hours with them? Well, sometimes it's cool just to do that. Stations I worked at before, we used to meet before work. We would drive a little bit. We'd get to work, get to the area like an hour before work and go eat breakfast really quick before, which helped beat traffic. And yeah, you got to get up an hour earlier, but who cares? Try little things like that. And there's other people where you're like, I don't want so-and-so to go. So if we ask the two of us and I don't want this guy to go, I get it. Work through that on your own. I can't give you every scenario, but this is little ideas to think of. How about daily camaraderie? Daily cooking. Okay, let's start there. Cooking's a big deal. Now, there's definitely some places where they're like, we don't cook. We eat 2 meals out or you bring your own thing. And that kind of sucks to me because tradition in the fire service has always been the kitchen table and the meals. And I had a whole episode on the kitchen table. I don't even think I really talked about the meal part of it, maybe a little bit, but just the cooking atmosphere is a big deal. And the more things that we let go as tradition, even good ones, even bad ones, well, we should let bad ones go if they suck, but the more that we start letting go of the big good ones, the more the fire service is going to suck ass. It's going to be more like a business. Don't let them make it a business because we allow it, because we let things go away. You're going to complain, right? Like that we're making it a business and we're only hiring certain people so that it looks right for numbers or whatever the heck it is. But we that's not something we can control, but we can control things as simple as making dinner, playing cards, hanging out and watching a movie together. It's funny because somebody brought up the other day, like, hey, do you have TVs in your dorms, right? Because that's the other big thing. All these new stations, everybody's got their little rat hole dorm because everybody needs their privacy and whatever act. Fine. That's fine. You know what? Sometimes I do like having my own little dorm. But you know what I do in there? I change clothes, I make my bed, and I don't go in there much at all. I had an old school captain when I worked in the Hollywood area for LA County. No TVs in the dorms is what that old school captain said. I don't want anybody adding TVs in their dorms because he didn't want the crew to basically come out of their rat hole because they're watching TV at night on their own or hanging out in the dorm all by themselves. He knew then it busts up the camaraderie and focusing on the group as a whole, which is good. Now, there is a TV in my dorm. It was already there when I got there. I think I've turned it on once to see if it works, and I haven't used it since I've been there. I've been there over 1.5 years now. Fine. You know, those are things like that can help. Now, is that extreme? Kind of, but the reason I don't have a reason to go to my dorm. Our crew always wants to hang out together, cleaning the rigs, training. And yeah, you're going, yeah, no wonder. Your crew's easy to work with. Well, we've had new people come in. You have to train and show those people that's the way. That's the way it should be. And can you do it all the time? No, because you're going to get tired and you're out there like, God, dude, I don't want to do this right now. But especially as a company officer, you have to be the example. Now, if you're in your own rank, engineer, fireman, do you have a little more leniency? Yes and no. Because I tried to say at the beginning, right? Hold everybody accountable in your rank. Hold your engineers and captains available, or hold your firemen and engineers, depending on what rank you are. Hold everybody accountable. That daily camaraderie of cooking and playing cards, movie, washing the rig together, whatever it may be, don't let that go away. And it's like, oh, I don't want to do it. Well, yeah. Do you think the guys like washing the rig all the time? Kind of. But you know what I'm saying? It's like, man, especially when it's raining or you're tired because you're getting your ass kicked on runs and you're like, we got to wash the rig. But when everybody gets out there and everybody helps get it done, it gets done that much faster. Turn on the damn radio. Do something to not make it as boring or make it more of an event, a camaraderie thing. All right. So those are the kind of things. Have you ever seen these places that you're like, geez, this place is sterile and sucks? Boring ass station, doesn't clean or cook together. Station's dirty in the corners, and you can just tell you're like, they just do the minimum all year long. That's the compounding factor of a crappy reputation. You just exist. Nobody really wants to come to that station. Now, can you make a 3-person or a slow outlying station or whatever appealing to people? Yeah, you can. You can have all this in those type stations. Doesn't matter, because most of the people, if you were to truly look at how people do things, okay, somebody that's been getting their ass kicked all the time and now they're like, I'm going to slow it down the last couple of years, try to extend my health a little bit of slower outlying station, and maybe that place sucks. But you still hold on to that passion and love for the fire service those last couple of years, because once it's gone, it's gone. You're not coming back, right? You retire, it's not coming back. I watched my father-in-law go through it. It took him a couple years to just detach from it because he was way into the job too. Maybe one day I can get him on here in an interview, but way into it. He's been retired, how long have I been? 13 years now, and still has contacts with friends from his old department, still talks about things, but it's not the same, right? It's not him going to work every day and being on the kitchen table. And he told me a story that really stuck to me recently. He worked in a city in LA County for a city agency, retired out of the station. He was coming home on his way home. He passes by that station. He pulls around to the back in a parking lot that kind of looks down at the fire station. Guys are in the back with the aerial. Ladder truck, sticks up, saws running, checking all their equipment, and he's got the 10-foot view because he's standing in the parking lot, the elevated parking lot, and he's looking down, looking around and watching and reminiscing about something that he retired from and did himself for years. And he's looking at the big picture. And, you can only imagine that memories are flooding back. But he's looking, he's like, I don't know anybody that works there. I don't know any of those guys down there. Because he was going to walk in and say, hey, what's up, so-and-so? Hey, what's going on? And, I'm just coming by for 5 minutes. And, if you've ever had the old timers come by your station that are retired that you maybe didn't know, and you're like, oh, hey, I retired out of here. And you're like, cool, man, right on. Because we're in the middle of watching football. Do your best to take the 5 or 10 minutes with that person to just let them reminisce, ask them questions. They're not going to stay there all day. I mean, they shouldn't, but, you can get what I'm getting at. Let them have that moment. Because he told me that a couple weeks ago. And he just got in his car and drove home because he's like, I'm not going to be that guy. But you can see where maybe if he had seen somebody, hey, I'll come down there for a few minutes and say hi. But just to have that overview like that and then go, you know what? I'm going to move on. We're all going to be there one day. God willing, we'll all be there one day. We retire, we go out the door. Number one, I know in our department we're a number. In most departments, you're a number. Even if you knew everybody at every department and you worked for an agency that everybody knew everybody and you're super tight and the city people knew all the city people. Great. One day still, though, you're going to be on down the road. And guess what? Somebody's going to take your position. They're going to have to promote or hire or whatever they need to do to fill your spot. So do the best you can while you're there. I bring it up now because I literally have 7 or 8 years left, which I'm like, ooh, that's a decent amount of time. But some days I look at it and go, that's a decent amount of time left. And other days I go, oh man, that's only 6 more summers or 7 more summers or whatever it may be. Damn, what am I going to do here? So getting off a tiny bit on the side here, but keeping that camaraderie and that reputation up, and then never letting it change. Once you get there, you don't let anybody undermine it, and you don't start letting yourself subpar it or letting things slip, because that's the death of it. That's like starting over again. Once you start saying, we don't need to cook on the weekend, or we don't need to train on the weekend, or let's just do the minimum, that's where it all falls apart. And it seems to gain speed faster going to shit than it does going up for some reason, right? It seems easier for everything to fall apart because it's easier to not do stuff than it is to actually do stuff. So sorry if I get a little sideways here with the language stuff, but it's because this actually, now that I start talking about it more, is passion that I realize. Number one, I'm lucky as all hell to have the crew I have and have had and have been asked to be part of. But it's also a daily push to keep doing the same thing on my end. Keep holding that standard. Keep holding myself accountable. Not allowing myself to be weak or poo-pooing the whole thing and being the bump. Because one day, if you work at a high rep station that you've put all this work into, and then you start being a turd, guess what's going to happen? You're going to get the form in your locker that's like, time to go. So either stay ahead of that or just don't let that lose steam and just keep pushing with it and realizing that ultimately those fun, awesome days are going to come to an end. Now, I'm not trying to like, oh my God, and you're driving or whatever right now, you're like, oh, falling apart. That's not what I mean. Just realize, enjoy it now, because no matter where you're at in your career, at some point it's going to come to an end, right? And sometimes you're like, geez, can I retire tomorrow? You hear the guys joke about it. Like, when are you going to retire? Oh, one bad day and I'm out of here. Well, yes, I've had those days too. So, but on the positive side, realize that one day it truly will be gone. So some of these stations that we work at, you're like, well, I'm already bidding to a place that has this high reputation. That's already been set from previous people that maybe don't even work there anymore. But what they set up still continues to be held up. That reputation continues to be held up. And now you need to do the same. Especially if you ask to bid to a place like that, you better come in on your A game every day. Is it easy to stay on your A game every day? Hell no. But it definitely is easier when you have a lot of A gamers that you're surrounded by. And they're going to pick up on when you're having a bad day. And once again, leading into mental health, you could have a crappy thing going on at home. Wife's pissed because you're getting mandatoried all the time, or you can't get home to see your friends, or whatever. Maybe they don't understand. But when you surround yourself by those people, it is actually a lot easier to operate like that. So some of these stations already had that reputation. They continue to have it long after people that set those up are there. So are we riding the coattails of them? Yes and no. You're riding the coattails, kind of. It seems to me you only ride the coattails when you try to use people's experience as your own. But when it comes to reputation and keeping a standard up for a station, if you're just continuing on what they already had and put in motion, that's all you're doing. You're keeping tradition going. You're not letting it fade away. You're not letting any of the things that the people ahead of you, for the reason you wanted to bid to that station or were asked, or maybe you're the one that creates that. So next thing is, what if we currently don't have that in our station? We're kind of just one of the places that exist. You know, you're average. Everything's kind of average, kind of there. It's not completely a mess, but it's not exceptional. Okay. But you want to take it up a notch. How do you make that happen? Well, tiny adjustments. Hell, it could be big things. All of a sudden, you're just like, boom, come in and swoop through and change things. Now, I could talk about this for hours, right? Because you can't say, oh, a new person that bids in the lowest rank that you may have can't come in and just start changing everything. Because then they'll be the person like, oh, you've been here 2 seconds. Now you're trying to change everything. I get it. Believe me, I've been around. I get it. You can't do that. But small adjustments have a big impact. Okay? You just have these tiny little impacts that you're starting to do to kind of change things. And then time that you're there, you start to see everything and you start having a plan further down the road of how you want to interject things. But there is no time frame like, oh, I need to work here for 3 months, 6 months, or a year before I'm even going to be considered or allowed to make any type of changes? Maybe. I don't know. I don't know all your specific details for your area, but focus the way you can change them right off the bat and how you can keep things going when you notice that, hey, I want to make this place a little bit better, or I need to stay up on this high level. Focus on yourself. Focus on yourself as an individual and get yourself up to par where you want to be, where you need to be. Is your safety gear there all the time? Are you checking out everything like you should? Is the apparatus checked out the way it should? Are you cleaning all the things you're supposed to do, maintaining all the tools, all those things that you're responsible for? So you handle yourself as an individual, and then you gel together as a crew and have an expectation or a standard. And then eventually you probably will rub off on the other ones. Now, is there always one bump shift? Sometimes it seems like that. But I've worked at a decent amount of places that you go, you know what? All 3 shifts are pretty good here. Yeah, you got a couple of dudes that you're like, man, we got to massage this guy a little bit, or tune this guy up a tiny bit here, or show them this way. And a lot of people like to put it on the new people, like, oh, the new people. Well, it also happens when people promote. Like, they're new to their rank. Doesn't mean they're new to the department, but they're new to their rank. And they still need guidance on certain things, so you might have to guide them on, in their new rank, certain things. So know that every little thing that you have rubs off and people see everything you're doing, right? So keep yourself high and tight. Then you work together as your shift and try to gel like that. Then eventually you're probably going to push it out all the way to other shifts too, and to where you're all on the same page. So that's a good thing. On the front of individual, I've already kind of talked about that, has a shift. Like, you're not necessarily just bidding a station. You usually bid a station and a shift. So build that shift the way you want to make it, get that high expectation up. And then when you start realizing there's a line of people that want to come to that station, that shift, kind of tells you, guess what? You guys are probably doing something right. What did I put here? Okay. Yeah. So yeah, once you notice that there's a line coming out the door, theoretically, people calling, as soon as a spot comes open, or somebody knows that somebody's going to promote or bid out or whatever it may be, or is going to paramedic school or doing something different, and you're already starting to get phone calls or inquiry, that's a good thing. That means you have people that are like, wait a second, other people that come and maybe do drills with you or with your crew, your station, multi-company drills, see you putting on classes for people, see the way you operate on calls. That builds little deposits into people down the line going, you know what? I want to work at that place. And that's where the line out the door thing comes from. So, all right. Let me even do a little thing here. Okay, so you say, oh, I'm just a firefighter, or I'm just the junior person. How do I make that huge impact difference? So to go back to the original question, this was the firefighter asking me as a captain, you came from this station. Well, how did they have that reputation? I explained to him the reputation at those places were already there when I got there. So my job was to stay at the minimum expectation standard, and if not, put a little twist or impact on it to push it even higher up in the impact level. So if that person's like, oh, I'm just a fireman, what can I do? Let's see. Where am I at here? Oh, so that was what I was talking about. Square yourself away. In our department, most of the time, the firefighters and the engineers are responsible for the rig, obviously, but also the tools. Do little things as simple as, how do the tools look on the engine or the truck? Is there a little bit of rust? Is there extra detail put into wrapping the handle, taking it up a notch, not just your standard tool that just has, a little bit of spray paint on it, maybe a sticker that says who it's identified to, and then it's thrown on the rig? Do you take it up a notch by, you want to call it nerding out? Call it nerding out. I don't care. Making your tools a little bit nicer, always maintaining them. No rust, no crappy folds in your hose bed because nobody pulls the damn hose or even cares to rinse off all the dirt in between it. Takes the nozzles off. There's no grittiness when you're turning the nozzles because they're exposed, and everybody takes the time to wash that. Things like that. Things that you can control at your rank. That's huge. That right there builds into an expectation level that you don't even realize. You're like, oh, we got the tunes on over here. We're cleaning the nozzles today. The next day will be the hose. Next day will be tool day, whatever it may be. All that stuff compounded together crushes it and makes that reputation go up crazy. So let's see. Yep, I talked about that. So in a term, one of the most recent pictures I put up was shift at our station. Not even my shift, just a different shift. Esprit de corps, right? So caring so much about that unit or that station and having that pride and then taking it to the next level. So there's a picture a couple weeks ago I put up there of the guys painting a mural in our gym of the station patch. That's esprit de corps. That's huge. That's not expected of them. That's not a super common thing that you see everywhere you go. So it's like, oh, we don't have one of those. We need to make that happen. That's next level to me. Taking the time to make a design or a mural on a wall and painting it together as a crew. And then it's a gift almost to the whole station. And then when people work overtime or come to your station, like, damn, look at that. That's awesome. That's esprit de corps, right? Patches. T-shirts if you're allowed, stickers, taking it to the next level with wrapping the tools or making sure there's no rust, or the way you handle your tools and maintaining stuff on the apparatus after a fire or on the weekly or a drill. It's huge. That's all huge things. Another one I think is that helps build your reputation is you don't allow laziness. At least you minimize it. Now, do you need a day where you're like, screw this? The guys have been busting ass and maybe we don't get dressed today in uniform because it's a weekend. We're going to play sports, pickleball, cook breakfast, do the daily cleaning of the station, now we're going to have a day every once in a while where we do the minimum, clean the rig, clean the station, cook, staffing, whatever you may need to do. That's kind of like your minimum standard day. And maybe you just have the day where you're like, okay, while we're around the station, you wear shorts and a t-shirt, you're comfortable, sports, Sunday football, whatever it may be, as long as your crew isn't way behind on everything, online training, all this, that stuff sucks. I get it, but it's that same thing. If you're maintaining and trying to plan out your time management and you're ahead on fire prevention, or you're doing a good job, or the crew never complains on everything that you say that you need them to do, you got to reward them. Because it's like just whipping the horses right all the time to run, and then you never give them a break. You can't do that. Come on. Then nobody's going to want to work there. You're going to burn them out. You're going to have quarter horse or whatever the fast-ass horses are run for your year, and then they're like, I'm out of here. Or do you make sure that you reward them every once in a while? And you're rewarding yourself. Believe me, don't tell me you don't think I don't want every once in a while I want to go, I just want to wear shorts and a t-shirt today, help cook, do all the stuff we need to do, and watch football. You bet your ass. You need to build in those days. Now, be careful when you hinge on the danger of Captain Good Times where that's just your daily routine. And then you have a line out the door because you're a lazy POS and that people know they can get away with things. You can't do that. You want to do that? Cool. Be Captain Good Times. I don't care, because people that do that, that's fine with me, because guess where the chief is going to be end up most of the time? Over there. So I don't care. Do that if you want to. One extreme to the other. Fit somewhere towards the caliber end of always have that high expectation and then reward the crew and yourself by having those down days. Or you can have the other one where station's not getting clean, rig's not getting clean, but you're super bitching because you don't make the guys get in uniform. They work out till noon, 2-day growth beards, shitty on calls. No problem. Do whatever you want to do. And you think I'm exaggerating that? That's what I'm hearing. So, and seeing when we go on things. And I know you've seen it. If I think I'm way off base and you're like, this guy's a kook, send me a message or get a hold of me and tell me you're full of crap. But there is no way. I pay attention to that stuff and look at those things, and I hear it constantly. Oh, these new people these new people in these leadership positions, they're not doing this. Okay, number one, were they ever taught to do it? were they ever shown how to be a leader? No, because all of a sudden one day we're like, you know what, I want to promote. Oh, I better start looking into leadership. Because, yeah, can you learn to give a size up and put people to task on fire? Yeah, I hope so. Otherwise, you shouldn't be doing that. It's not that so much as, that's why you don't hear me talk a lot about operational stuff and tactics. Next episode, I was going to talk about just fire stuff and nerd out about fire things, but I don't do it a lot because you're probably already good at that, or somebody's going to show you that, or it's agency specific. So for me to sit here and talk to about it, you're like, When I start doing interviews, I'll ask people some things about that, but that's why you don't hear me talking about it as much. That's not the part that you probably have an issue with. It's everything else prior to getting on the fire ground. So, all right. So how do you avoid that laziness? Okay, you don't allow things to fall apart. Like I talked about already. I don't need to rehash it, but I'm talking about you don't let things go. We don't need to cook. Nah, let's not do cards. It's late. Everybody kind of goes to their dorm. The rigs barely get cleaned. The station gets barely clean. Those kind of things is basically laziness. So that's where things are going to start to fall apart. The ones that suck the most are stations that don't have a certain blank rank. They don't have firemen. They don't have engineers at that station. They don't have a captain, whatever. Whatever rank it's at, that's where your holes are going to be. Because the substitute teacher of X, Y, or Z, firemen, engineers, or captains, aren't making the daily stuff happen when there's a vacancy there. So it's put on the other shifts to push harder or to make those things happen. And then it sucks even more when you're the captain, because who's going to tell you what to do? Maybe the chief's going to call you and go, this isn't getting done on this shift because of this. I need you to do that today. Okay, that's going to happen. But there are times where I'm aware of probationary firefighters, new engineers that don't have a captain, and I work overtime there, and after the second or third overtime, I'm going, hey, are you guys getting what you need done? Oh, I need this ordered. Most of the time you have the other captains in the station that are handling it. But on the daily, if you just have a new engineer that, isn't always working overtime with the in-station captains, maybe you need to take them out and have them pump a line or make a hydrant or just some basic stuff because they're sick of it. I tell people all the time, and you've probably already experienced this. When you have a hole or a gap in your shift, you kind of get tired of it after a while. Once the novelty of the overtime, like, oh, we can get overtime on this shift, or it actually gives you ability to try somebody out, and you're kind of getting overtimers come through, and you're like, ooh, I like so-and-so, we like so-and-so. Cool, that part's cool. But when it becomes a long-term thing, you're like, dude, this sucks. So you have to work through that. But that's where you don't want to let those things fall apart too long. Try to keep having the shift full. Number one is a huge benefit. Train. So how do you keep your reputation of your station up? Train. Get out there and train. It's a twofold benefit, right? You get the sets and reps in for yourself, and then your reputation gets put out there, and it starts to build with amongst other people. Like, oh man, you go to work so-and-so, they're probably going to do a drill. They're probably going to train. Now, do I mean you're pulling hose every day and you're wetting down a parking lot and you're doing some stuff? And no, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking anything. YouTube videos, practicing size ups, everything under the sun that has to do with training. It doesn't have to be just pulling hose and getting wet and running the guys into the ground when it's 105 out, or it's 5 degrees outside, depending on where you work. It's not just that. There's stuff where you go, man, it sucks today. It's raining. Oh, cool. Rainy day schedule. Yeah, that went away when you were like in 5th grade or something, high school, whatever the hell. You can still train indoors. So unless you're going to play butts up, 7-Up, or whatever the hell with the guys, stop. Train. You can throw something on the TV. You can do something on the app floor, ropes, knots, whatever the hell. You get what I'm talking about. Put on, and then your reputation gets, people are like, they don't mess around over there. Good and bad. Washes out turds, sets the expectation. And then also, you don't just want to wash out turds, because all you're doing is moving a problem from here to here to here to there. But you can't always fix everybody, so you're going to have that certain percentage of turds. They're just going to be turds. Sorry. Turd in a punch bowl, floating around. That's how it's going to be. But you impact them. It's just up to them sometimes to change things. But how about you put on a battalion drill? You put it on. Who cares what rank you're at? Hey, Cap, I like elevators, or I'm into AutoX. Can I put on a drill for the battalion? Cool. Set up a date, make some things happen, go the extra mile on the drill, set it up, but do something you like. Pick something you like. And it can't be that every time you give a drill, it's the same topic, because that's friggin' boring. And then you get stuck as, that's all that person knows. But to start off and try to get those reputations, everybody on your crew has something that they're unique and know about. Put it on them to say, hey, every month or every 2 months, whatever you want, we're going to put a battalion drill where you guys pick the subject and you're the subject matter expert. You're going to put on the battalion drill. Cool. Do that. How else do you keep up your reputation? The cooking thing. It's like I keep coming back to it, but it's a big deal, I think, because it relates to the table, the kitchen table. If you want to hear more about that, go back to the episode of the kitchen table. I think it was 10 or 11. What other traditions do you have? Like we play cards after dinner. We play a dollar hand. We play a card game. Perfect. That's cool. We keep that up. Now it gets late. We can't do it all the time. But when people ask and they go, hey, Cap, do you want to do it? Yes. There's no reason not to. Do it. Keep those traditions. Don't start allowing just the laziness to be like, I don't want to do it. You really don't have a reason. If it's 9:00 at night because you've been getting your butt kicked and it's dinner time and guys want to call their families, take a shower, they have stuff to do, then yeah, maybe that day just isn't the time for it. But on the regular, if you can make it work, make it work. Don't just allow them to say, no cards or no whatever cool little activity you have after dinner for dishes or camaraderie you have. Don't let it start to go away just because one day you're lazy, the next day you're lazy, the next day becomes the norm. Now the norm is we don't do it anymore. It can happen that fast. How about working out together? Hanging out together? Watching movies? Yeah. Do I like every movie that the guys pick? No. Do they like everything I pick? No. But at least you're there. So hang out for a little while. It doesn't mean you got to sit there the whole time and watch the movie. Oh, hey, I got to call home. I'm tired. I've worked 3 days in a row. But at least you were there. And you're not hanging out in your dorm and nobody knows where the hell you're at, no matter what rank you're in. How about the annual inspection? We have annual division inspection where the assistant chief, so the rank above the battalion chief, comes and does our yearly annual inspection. Rigs, station, records, the building, climbs under the rig, all that major stuff. Everybody's dressed to the hilt. All their safety gear is out. It's a big deal. Most people poo-poo that and go, this is bullcrap. I don't want to do this. We have enough stuff to do. I don't need to do this, blah, blah, blah. But if the station is maintained throughout the year in a high expectation, that's how we roll type attitude, then you don't need to bust ass and clean all this stuff that you should have cleaned all year long. You just go the next level up. Not, this place is a pigsty, and now we need to get ready for inspection, so you're busting ass with a group of people that probably didn't want to keep it up anyway. You get what I'm saying? Easier said than done. I work at a big station. The station's huge, and the firefighters and the engineers do a great job. But we also, as the captains, do a good job in the office, on the rig, inside our little area, knowing what's going on. Getting out there, do you think I have a problem washing the rig or climbing under the rig with the guys? If my stuff's done and they need a little bit more help, I like to do that stuff too. I can't go out there and do it all the time, every time, because then the guys are looking at you going, why are you doing my job? Or why are you out here, Cap? You got to weed your way through there and try to figure out when it's appropriate and when you can fill in to help with those things. So you got that. Minimal dorm time, I write. Minimal dorm time if you can avoid it. If you're trying to study, that person needs to be in the dorm and studying. But it's known that that person's studying because the test is coming up in a couple of weeks. If they just don't want to hang out with everybody and they just go in their dorm every night and watch TV, try to curb that as much as you can. Now, if it's the other captain, still say something. If you're the captain, and still say something like, hey, is there a problem with saying something? No, you're building a relationship with that person. Maybe they have something going on that they just are trying to hide from or whatever it may be. You could bring it up to them. Now, if they tell you to pound sand because that's what they want to do, all right, cool. No problem. But at least you acknowledged it. All right. So what happens? You already know what happens. I already said it. What happens when we let these things slip or stop doing? Like I said, it falls apart a lot faster than it does to get it to that higher level. As soon as you start letting things go in whatever rank you're in and it starts to become the norm, that's where the baseline of what is expected of your station, what is allowed, and what your reputation is. Don't let that happen. If you're already there and you need to come out of the hole, we already talked about ways you can do that. If you're already there, don't let it go slip down. It's work. It's work for a reason. So can you apply this stuff at your own house? Kind of. Good luck with that if you're married, though. But I'm just saying. There's an expectation, right? My wife has an expectation of me, and I have one of her. That's kind of mutual back and forth. And she knows when there's something wrong because I'm not holding my normal expectation. Now, guys, do we suck at figuring it out when our wife is something like that? Yeah, sometimes. But they also don't help us if they're like, oh, I don't want to talk about it. This isn't a marriage and relationship video or podcast, but I'm just saying the same things happen amongst people in the Firehouse. So, and a good goal that I always like to aim for, especially at a big house, it doesn't matter what house, actually, it doesn't matter what size, is when you have all your shifts and you have your shifts are full and you have A, B, and C shift or whatever you have, and everybody at that firehouse, no matter, just say the firefighter rank or the captain rank or the engineer, doesn't matter. When somebody takes a day off and somebody in-house fills in, a B shifter is working on the A shift or a C shifter is working on the B shift, whatever it may be. When you've gotten to the point where all the shifts can gel together and you're like one firehouse, that really the shifts are just a standard way of putting everybody, because you only have so much room for each person or for those numbers of individuals. When they can work and gel and fill in on whatever shift it is, your SOPs, the way they handle things at the station, their reputation, their expectation, that's when you have the well-oiled machine. And when a visitor comes and they're like, dude, they look at how you guys operate, that rubs off. Number one, they may not want to bid your station because they don't like this or it's too far away or whatever, but it rubs off on them and they take it back to their firehouse and they try to make theirs better or like yours. You're trying to make yours look like something. They're trying to make theirs look like yours, whatever it may be. You can see those little things rub off. And will you ever know if you're rubbing off on people? Nah. You don't get a report card. You rarely get people to tell you like, you guys are doing an awesome job and we want to be like you. Nobody says that. But you know that by holding that standard, you're never going to get rewarded and told like, oh, hey, we're doing it because of you guys. But you will feel every once in a while when you start noticing the levels coming up, when you're working overtime in that battalion or something, you're like, wow, this station never used to be like this. What changed? Maybe we had an impact. Maybe somebody else came into that station and is making that impact too. Well, help them. Help them make that impact just in that 24 hours you're working overtime and keep it going. Because like I said, if we allow it to keep continuing to fall apart or you allow things to go away, they're just going to go to crap. So push it the other way. Make it better the other way. I think I've hammered it enough. It's a little over an hour. You understand what I'm saying? It's kind of a topic subject where I hit it. And you know what? I'll probably go back and revisit it because I'll write a few things down after I edit it and listen to myself and go, I should have talked about this. But I keep notes for those things and I don't go back and try to fit them in. I just put it all out there and then we come back and visit it again. But I still want to stick to one thing where questions from the streets, a while back now, I asked people like what topics. So I'm still punching through those, but I'm going to hit it up again and ask people some topics now that I've put myself out there a little bit of things that they wanted me to talk about and these questions from the streets type thing. So we got a question from one person that sent a message that said, how do you tell somebody that wants to promote that they should be riding on the engine or truck and not on the paramedic squad? So we have paramedic squad. It's you and your partner, 2-person. And they're busy, right? They're always running around. And then you have the person saying, well, I want to promote, but they conveniently make their way to always being on the 2-man paramedic squad. And then they're not and you're like, well, how serious are you wanting to promote? Are you promoting to engineer or captain? Doesn't matter which one you're trying to go for. You need to get off of that paramedic squad and get around those people, which are the engineer and the captain, whatever rank you're going for, or both of them are going to help you, most likely, because one of them is going to say something in each rank. Engineers saying, hey, how he's the right-hand man for the captain saying how that's his right-hand man, and they're kind of going back and forth. So if you're going to promote, start looking towards that and getting in that position and start asking people early. I'm putting on a workshop here beginning of next year for that reason. My basis is grabbing the people early before they want to promote and start talking about a lot of these things, not just operational, but a lot of things I've been talking about on the podcast, take it another level in a workshop type atmosphere to get these people to start thinking that way and not just, oh crap, the test came out. Now I want to start being a captain. Sorry, pal. It doesn't work that way. If the job flyer comes out and all of a sudden now you're like, you want everybody to drop their crap and help you because the job flyer came out, but you didn't give a crap months before other than you just said you wanted to take the test. Okay, well, how much motivation do you think that people are going to say, no problem, it's all about you for the next few weeks and let's let you practice in the seat and do all that? It's not going to happen. I mean, it might, but that's not good planning. And that's not being considerate of other people's stuff that you're going to ask. Now, you're going to hear me all the time talk about find a mentor, find somebody that's going to tell you the truth. You bet. But I mean now. I don't mean wait for the job flyer to come out and then go, I need to learn about leadership and mentoring and being mentored right now because the test is in process. No, you need to say, okay, I want to promote. Do your stuff when you need to be on the paramedic squad, when you maybe have to or need to be because it's your rotation. And then other days when it's your engine day, you don't go, hey, you know what? I'll take this paramedic squad over the, because people take note of that stuff. And they're like, you know what? Screw this. This guy wants to promote or girl, whatever, you know what I'm saying? They want to promote. Well, then put some motivation towards actually being there. Don't all of a sudden expect everybody to drop everything and go, oh, I want to be an engineer now. I want to be on the engine every day. No. Complete quick way to have your crew actually want to turn on you. Doesn't work like that. Just be aware of it. So that was a question from the streets. That's just my opinion only. You can say, hey, you're screwed up, but I've seen that work many times where it needs to be the other way. Slowly start integrating yourself. You get more bang out of your buck from other people when you're asking some of their time for that day that they're already busy, but they're willing to give you more time in short bursts than they are. It's like this, right? You think I could do 8 hours of podcasting? Crap. By the third hour, I'd be like, this sucks. My quality of what I would give you would be dog crap in a recording type podcasting. In a classroom, I can go all day because it's different because I have people to interact with. But you know what I'm saying? So, all right. I think I answered that one. Once again, anything that you have, please send to me. I don't care how you get a hold of me. I think my phone number is on the website. If not, you can get a hold of me. Website, thefireofficerproject.com. You can email me through that. You can get a hold of me on that. The Instagram handle is the same, The Fire Officer Project. On Instagram, everything's there. Hit the bio up top, the link tree. I got all these things connected now. The next big thing, like I said, is going to be switching up and incorporating all the electronics and interviews and all that stuff coming. So hopefully I won't take another 2.5 month break. I got some other things lined up. But yeah, if you have anything you want to send me, or if you're thinking about future collaborations or interviews or anything like that, send me a message. I'm going to actually start putting myself out there and seeing if I can get on other shows with people and connect with other like-minded folks. And then we're going to take it from there. So once again, thank you very much for listening to The Fire Officer Project.